I'm Matt Reynolds, and this is my podcast.
I can do the job, but running the business is quite difficult. What a lot of tradesmen lack, and I was probably one of them, is business skills.
I don't mind making mistakes. You learn from your mistakes.
Information is all around you in the minds of people that work beside you.
This is episode 3 of Trench Talk. I'm Matt Reynolds, and this one is a real treat. It seems a little crazy to say now, but just 10 short years ago, almost no one knew who Shane Jacobson was. The low-budget, family-made mockumentary about toilets changed all that. From fearless Aussie plumber Kenny Smyth to the chair beside Jeremy Clarkson on the set of Top Gear, to working alongside Matt Damon on the Bourne Legacy, Shane has a knack of keeping things fun and helping people laugh along the way. Here we discuss his role as a plumber, maintaining his schedule, sleep, film, and his thoughts on learning. Enjoy my chat with Shane Jacobson. Shane Jacobson, thanks for doing this. One of the surprising things, I guess, that I took from your book, which I finished reading just recently, was how busy I think your schedule has pretty much always been.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never a dull moment, that's for sure.
And are you naturally just a doing person? I mean, I've found that people who tend to create quite, a high level of success in their lives tend to be able to survive on a lack of sleep and a lack of rest and just have the knack of to just keep pushing.
Yeah, I used to. I'm not a great sleeper, to be honest. A lot of things do whir around in my head in bed. Plus, I just don't think I'm a very good sleeper. I was as a young person. There's no doubt about it. You could, like most teenagers, if you got me anywhere near a bed, the truth was, if the room was quiet enough, I could probably sleep 12 hours. But my schedule never allowed that. And so I do think you get used to less sleep. But by the same time, when you've got enough thoughts running through your mind, I think it's what keeps your body moving and your brain. When the brain's ticking over, it tends to be like its own form of adrenaline, I guess, in that you kind of want to get up and, write a note down or get on your computer or get to a meeting or speak to someone about that idea. So I think that's why a lot of people who are busy probably get used to less sleep. I'm quite sure if you, took my 4 children, and put them on a desert island away from me and cleared my schedule and, I didn't have to look after my partner or catch up with friends or make calls. If you put me on an island which only had gentle music, some really nice wine and a very comfortable bed, I'm sure I would sleep more. But, of course, the reality is when you find yourself in that situation, if I was put on that island, I would probably take with me 10 scripts and 14 books that I've still got to read. So all of a sudden it starts over again. So I'm sure it's a very similar thing for most people who are ideas people or who work in a busy industry and they're a part of a machine.
I'm certainly finding that, like this unquenchable thirst, if you like, to get the job done.
Yeah, and look, the reality is you kind of have to get things done in order to move on to the next thing. And interesting, when you get, I think if you are a really busy person, and a lot of people out there are, when you get down to only 1 or 2 things left to do, you can drag your heels getting those done. But when you've got 50 to do, you start to plough through them. So I think, even a busy person, if you're only listening with 2 things to do, they'd probably drag their feet and catch up with a friend and go out for a drink or, ring a mate and have a casual chat. But like I said, when there's a list of 50 things to get done, you can't help but know you've just got to start to plough through them.
So is that an environment that you purposely create for yourself to take on more than you can get done just to force a higher than expected output?
No, not at all. I'd be happy for things to be quieter. And I know people do say you can just say no. And I do say no a lot, in the truth. There's a lot of stuff that we say no to. Because, it's the wonderful thing. People kind of send you ideas and go, I've got this idea and I've got that idea. But, of course, the truth is I and people close to me have so many great ideas already in their pipeline that we're not looking for new ideas. We're actually just trying to execute the ones we've got. And you can't help but want to complete your own projects, if that makes sense. That's not to say, if a film comes in that's been written and it's got a budget that's ready to go, of course you'll do that. But I don't do it on purpose. It's just the problem is you look at an idea or you see potential in something or you're talking to someone casually and they're going, that would be a great idea. And you start to have a chat about how you would execute it. Before you know it, the thing starts to grow its own legs. And so, I don't think it's that I intentionally create a busy world for myself. But in the business of creating things, you just tend to be busy. But, you know, I know it's a horse and cart thing, you know, but I certainly don't do it to go, God, I need more projects to work on, you know. But when a good idea comes up, or a great script, or you've been working some projects, the other thing is they take a really long while. It's not like, you know, in the last couple of weeks I've built a doghouse and, you know, built a new chook shed. Those things you can kind of go, I'm going to do that. Go out there, you know, grab me nail, go and go bang, 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 shoot the thing together, and it's built. You can get that over and done within a couple of days. Obviously, it's a different if you're building a house. But little projects like that you can knock over quickly. But things like films and TV shows, they take a very long while. So, you know, a movie, on average, a film, from when someone goes, I've got a good idea for a film, to it being in a cinema, would on average never be less than 7 years.
7 years? Wow, that's a lot longer than I would have expected.
Yeah, someone says to me now, I've got this great idea for a movie you should look at. From that point, if they're part of a team that's really got themselves together, on average, it'll be 7 years until that movie comes out. And I don't think people realise that. So Oddball, that came out recently, I was first attached to that 7 years ago.
Yeah, right.
So by the time it comes out, that was great. We should do something else like that. You think, yeah, but it does take a long while. So that's the other thing is, you know, I could have, based on that, if I was to do one film a year, and I've done 2 last year, I've got a couple to do this year, that you'd have to have like 2. If you were to do 2 films a year, and that's not, you know, they take about 2 months to film. As an actor, the directors and producers have to work on them all the time. But the actors get it pretty easy. They've just got to turn up and shoot the thing. And then it's on average 2 months. And by the time you do a bit of press, you know, say 2.5 months on average for a movie. We've only got 5 months there out of a year. But in order to do 2 a year, you would have to have at any point in time 14 on the go, if you think about that kind of stat. So, yeah. So you've got no choice but to be busy, you know. And I'm involved in a lot of charities. As you can imagine, you get approached by a lot of charities, and they're all some really good ones. And I'm the chief scout of Victoria and ambassador for the HMAS Canberra, Australia's $1.4 billion warship, of Heart Kids, Congenital Heart Disease, Mirabelle Foundation. So you've got that, and I'm a father, as well as projects I'm developing. I'm executive producer of a TV show. So by the time you get all that going, even if I don't take anything on, even if I said no to everyone that rang me and every charity, you name it, and I get approached daily, even if I said no to all of them, I'd still be flat out.
And with that 7-year period, the film Kenny has just turned 10.
Yeah.
Does that mean that the idea for that was first floating around 17 years ago, or was that a much shorter time frame?
Kenny was a very different journey, and really is kind of the black sheep of the film family in the way it happened. We did a short film that then was so enjoyed that we were approached to make it into a feature film. So that was a very different thing and a very different journey, and probably one that won't often be replicated. There's a few little films like that will come about, but it wasn't an idea that we then approached people to find funding to turn into a feature film. It all happened in the reverse. It really is a bit rare in that case. You know, it's not often a film is going to be fully funded for a mockumentary film where it's paid for entirely by the company that the film is based on. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, Splashdown, a toilet rental company, event toilet hire company, pay for a film about a guy called Kenny who you know, we're pretending works for that company. It's not a normal model that will, you know, happen very often, I wouldn't think.
I was quite surprised when I read that they had funded the whole thing actually over a packet of Tim Tams. That discussion was, I think, if I recall correctly. Do you ever think about that moment and where you are now and pinch yourself?
Yes, of course.
Some of the films that you've done, the people that you've worked with, the projects you've completed. I mean, you've built quite an impressive resume now.
It's an amazing list, and you do, you know, as we know, the expression is pinch yourself, and in reality, what that turns into is I quite often get a chance to look around at some of the people I am working with and go, how lucky am I? You know, and it really is that. And of course, the expression to pinch yourself is to find out if you're dreaming so that you wake up. But the great part is I now know it's been going on long enough. I know it's not a dream. So now that I know it's not a dream, I have to really enjoy it, and I do. Because if you're in a dream, you realise that, oh my God, it's going to stop when I wake up. The great part is now that, it's been going. Kenny was 10 years ago, and I've still got a full-time job out of it. So I consider myself incredibly lucky because I'm aware of how great it is and how lucky I am to have a job that I love so much. And I get to work with great people, and it was a dream. There's no denying. The dream I had was to become an actor, and now I'm living the dream. So it is fantastic. And I'm very fortunate to have worked with so many people. I'm into motorsport, and I worked with Jeremy Clarkson, and I've known him now for 7 years. And Paul Hogan was a hero of mine. I filmed with him, and Brian Brown, I now know him, and Jeffrey Rush in the theatre world, and I've been on stage with him, and incredibly lucky stuff. And literally, if the journey was to stop tomorrow, I would still call myself incredibly fortunate to have got what I've got.
Was there a specific point when you realised that you had the ability to be an actor? And I guess we grow up as kids and we all have our dreams and aspirations, and whether it to be a footy player or to fly to the moon or whatever it is. But was there a specific point when you thought, you know what, I've actually got the talent to live out my dream here?
I'm not even sure I ever thought that I had something special. It was just, I love doing it. I think the truth is, I think for most people, if someone wants to be a supermodel and they're blessed with great looks, I think at that point someone would go to you, you've actually got something that you should work with that. I think it would be different for sporting stars, I think, and maybe actors and people, especially sporting stars, I think is probably a great analogy. I don't think anyone's born with a natural ability necessarily. I mean, some people are better gifted than others. But if someone wants to be a great tennis player, they just start playing tennis from a very young age. And if they love it and if they persevere, they actually get better and better and better. But if they didn't apply themselves, even someone with natural born ability, if they just didn't actually apply themselves to the training and didn't really just walk out on the tennis court during the finals, they wouldn't go on to reach world success. You've actually got to apply yourself. And you've got to love it a bit too. You've got to really want to succeed at it. So for me, I loved it and still do. And so the reality is, I don't think I ever thought I had a special gift, but God, I love performing. And then out of that came a set of skills that you're constantly trying to hone, and make sure you're always doing, great work that people are enjoying and seeing as natural in front of the lens as you can be. But I don't think I ever got to a point of going, I actually think I've got quite a talent here because, I'm not much to look at. I'm not exactly the best. I'm never going to be a supermodel. It ain't a great head you're looking at. So, I better keep trying in case the audience goes, God, we're not going to look or hear that. Look at or hear from that. So it's just always been the fact that I've loved it, and I love to entertain. There's something wonderful about being able to walk out on a stage or do a performance that people enjoy. Some people do it for the fame, and there's some nice bits about that too. But I do genuinely love performing for people. I really do. Walking out on stage, live theatre production and doing, even when I do corporate shows and MC, large corporate functions. So walking in front of a live room of people and being able to make them at least smile, hopefully laugh, that's a pretty good thing. And everyone would know, if you tell a joke, even at a pub, everyone has a rough feeling without even knowing it. If you give someone a gift, literally a birthday gift, and they open it and you see their face light up, that feels great. If you help someone out, if someone drops a bag of shopping and someone runs over and helps pick it up and put it back in the trolley, and that person says, thank you so much, that genuine response where someone appreciates what you've just done for them, that feels pretty good. And if someone, I'm sure anyone can associate with this, if you tell a joke at a dinner party or at a bar or a pub or whatever, and everyone in your little group laughs out loud, that feels great. So that's what I love, and I get to do that for a job. So I don't think anyone would, if you explain it in those terms, I think most people would go, actually, that does feel good, And so telling a joke or giving a performance that makes someone feel something, even if it's an emotional performance where people are moved by it and brought to tears, well, it kind of feels weird, but it's a weird thing to say. But even though you can watch a movie and get very emotional upset, it's an amazing journey. You kind of finish the film going, what a great film, What a great journey. And I love taking people on that. So I just spent my life trying to do that and do that more and try and do a good job of it. And so along the way, I think I got okay at it.
Is there any skill that you're working on today that you really want to get better at?
Oh, acting. Well, the thing with acting is you never know. Acting is the act of repeating words and pretending to be someone you're not. And so the challenge is with every role. Some roles not as much as other ones. If they're closer to your own personality, it's easier. But you never know what your next role is. And so I imagine if I was to compare myself to a builder, once you've got the skills to build a house, you don't know until you get the plans from the architect, which for us is the script, and for them is plans from the architect or draftsman. When they go, I know to build a house, but man, there's some weird angles on this. This is going to take a bit of work. You know what I mean? And that's the same with the scripts. So it works kind of, in my mind, for me anyway, my work's never done with acting because you just don't know. In the next role, I can be a primary school teacher, a mass murderer, a villain or a hero. You don't know. And so, but that's the joy of acting. But look, I'm always trying to, the thing I'm trying to hone now, in all honesty, on top of acting is just, I've got 4 children. I think the hardest part is trying to make sure you're being a good parent amongst all that. So that's the part I'm honing most. So, and plus I live on 6 acres. So, there's still, I'm trying to get better at driving the tractor too, so I don't kill someone.
You've certainly got the contacts for driving lessons, haven't you?
Oh, I'm fine with driving. I just try and, I've got mates who, drive bobcats for a living, and I watch them work a machine, and I can't do it as well. So I'm trying to protect those skills a bit at the same time.
You're pretty close with your brother, Clay.
Yeah.
How important has that relationship been? Because if I understand correctly, he's been a real steadying influence, if you like, in your life and really helped, kept you on track a number of times. So how important has that been, particularly because you've been on a path of such rapid growth and development and output? Well,
what he was doing, I guess if I reworded it, it's close to the truth to keep me on track. What he actually did was I was very busy in the business world and he was very busy in the entertainment world. I've always been in entertainment and was doing entertaining, but he kept just sort of yelling at me going, don't get too... It was almost like he was standing on one block of land called entertainment and I was in another block of land called entertainment, but I was very busy in the production side of it. And he kept yelling at me over there going, don't spend too long over there. You've got to get over here and get back to your acting stuff, because he was directing and he's like, you've got to keep doing more of it. But I got so busy in the business world, which is why I still like to produce product as well. I was a production manager, events and event manager and all the things you would have read in the book. But he kept saying, don't get too distracted there. We loved working together and we never got a chance to do enough of it. We lived together and we're brothers, but we just didn't get enough of a chance to work together. And Clay really was the driving force behind going, we've got to do this film together and you've got to, just stop working so hard running these companies and things, because I reckon you've got to free up more time. So he just constantly just said, you really shouldn't be that distracted by it. So it was almost like he was telling me to jump back over the fence towards him more than spend long over there. And he was right. That's what I should have done, and we did it together, and it's gone great. And so now we're both, independently working in the industry, but still, the stuff we're working on even now, Clay's an incredible machine at being able to just generate story and scripts. He really is. He's better at it than me. He can vomit a movie idea in seconds, and they're infinitely better than a lot of the ones I've heard. So he's a creative genius is what he is. And apart from that, he's my brother, which is great.
Being a plumber myself, I have to ask about the movie, Kenny. Was there any secret to how that came together? And the reason I ask is that you so accurately touched on many of the real intricacies and truths, if you like, about a plumbing and a tradesman life. And my initial thought was that for you to be able to hit those points time and time again through the movie, you must have been in that life for quite a while just to know them, which of course you weren't. So is there any background story there? Is there any secret as to how you got that so accurate?
Yeah, well, thanks, mate. The truth is, I come from a very working class family, and I went to a technical school. So the reason I say I'm knocking up a chook house and knocking up a dog house and helping fix fences on my property is, I half of my mates are tradies. Pretty much most of my best mates are tradies, and I've got a truck license. I've driven trucks. I've got a forklift license. As you probably saw in the book, I've got a license for most stuff. So I worked as a roadie, for years, doing bands, lighting design, site management, And so the guys at Splashdown, I knew all those guys, and I now can do. I'm unqualified. I'm not a plumber at all, and I'm an old man with so I couldn't change a washer and a tap, but seal and a tap. But I actually, so when we were filming that thing, I spent so long working with those guys. I actually, a lot of the times when we were filming, I would actually drag the building onto them. You know, they're basically the size of a 20-foot shipping container. They're 20-foot. 8-foot box, and I drag them on the tilt tray, drive the tilt tray to the side, drop the building off, plug the power in or get a generator fired up and get that thing going, and then I'd plumb it up to water because they're all just twist lock, they're all just PVC piping. It's all that kind of stuff you can twist lock it and undo it and reusable and all that kind of stuff. So I'd plumb the thing up myself, get the water going, and then we'd film it. So I actually do, and when we were filming at the Melbourne Cup, the only way to make it real was to actually do it with the guys. Like, there's some footage there of me pumping a tank, and I actually am pumping the tank. And not only that, there's actually footage with me, because the guys, they've got these, like, twist lock, these cam lock units so you can actually it's like a 4-inch nozzle. You put it up to the building, and it's got two locks that actually lock it on, and therefore your hands don't have to touch it and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is it just takes too long, and sometimes, all the locks are snapped because punters have stood on them or whatever they've done or valves. So it's actually just as quick, and when we got these 10,000-litre vacuum tanks, it's actually kind of quicker just to have a wet towel or a wet cloth. As you know, it creates a bit of a seal if it's got water in it, which is why waterboarding works. So you just put the 4-inch nozzle, and it's got as you know, pretty serious vacuum on them. You put that up against it and wrap a wet towel around it and just start the pump and then pull the valve open, and it'll empty that thing out without you getting covered in it. And so there's actually footage of me doing that. In fact, in one of the shots that didn't make it to air, I actually heard the vacuum stop, and unbeknownst to me, the splashdown workers slowly were walking away, knowing that the tank had almost filled. And as you know, if you completely fill a tank, it can no longer create a vacuum, which means it's all coming back out. And they call it getting freckled in the business. And so they wanted to see if I was going to get freckled by quite a few thousand litres before they shut it off. And but I heard the vacuum go, and they were very disappointed that he pressed all at once, that I actually heard it go and turn around and shut the unit off before I got covered in the stuff. So, I work with them, and when I worked in the entertainment industry, I knew those guys, and just when I was a kid, doing work experience, I worked in a tyre centre and went out and actually helped a plumber for a few weeks, and so I kind of none of it's that strange to me. Like I said, I've come from a pretty working class family, and most of them mates are tradies, so I just kind of know that world, and feel comfortable in it and feel comfortable to talk about it, and kind of have myself working jobs as a roadie and stuff, and where you kind of got people looking at you like you're dressed in a black shirt, you've got black pants, and your hair, I had long hair and that kind of stuff. You have moments when, and even my brother in particular, Clayton, cleaned toilets. My brother cleaned toilets to get himself through film school. So he knows, literally, and so he knows what it's like to be frowned upon. And that was a lot of the sensitivity in it about, because the truth is, I think all plumbers know the same thing, that every time, thank goodness now, tradespeople, it's got to the point now that the tradespeople, as we know, are paid incredible money because they've got skills, and not that many people want to get their hands dirty. Not as many people as did years ago. I went to a trade school, they hardly even exist now. They just don't exist, government trade schools. And so, I do, at school, I did, as many people would have, engineering workshop practice, sheet metal, woodwork, electrical, engineering. I did normal graphics and engineering graphics, actually. And engineering workshop practice was learning how to, we'd use lathes and stuff. The list goes on. Most of what we were doing was, and you do maths, English, social studies, and science, and the rest were all trade subjects, So I had to learn how to, if I was doing sheet metal work, in sheet metal, I had to hand solder guttering. So I had to hand cut guttering, flux and all that, the old way of doing things. And literally I had to hand solder full guttering systems with an iron in a fire. You weren't even allowed to use electrical irons. Like, they made you learn that way, and then that way moving forward, once they introduced better equipment, will you be better at it? But so, yeah, anyway, so that world. So my brother, he literally going, and what I was going to say was about the world of plumbing is that what my brother knew and what I know is that now that there's not as many people, tradespeople getting paid more, and they should be, it's a great skill set, and there's not as many people out there doing it. But the reality is but this still exists when people go, what do you do for a job? Someone who's a plumber, if they just go, I'm a plumber, people instantly go, oh, I better not shake your hand. Oh, he's in the shit. And the jokes start, and they're never ending. And that's fine. And, plumbers are used to everything else. But especially with the splashdown toilet workers, they're providing a service. And some of these guys, they're amazing at it. They're great at what they do. But they're just the butt of everyone's jokes. Quite often, the first 10 things they hear out of people's mouths when they tell people what they do is that, people have got a joke at their expense. And it's just constant. And so the interesting thing is what we always found fascinating was everyone can crack a joke at a plumber. But, man, as soon as the water or the sewage goes bung on their house, how quickly do they want them there and how much they respect the work of a good plumber. But as soon as the house is fixed, they're like, oh, I better not shake your hand, you've been out there. And you're like, mate, you were begging me. I just can't, mates that I've spoken to, like, I've had one of my old brother-in-laws a plumber as well. Just that thing that, when someone's ringing you because there's sewage leaking on their property, they're screaming down the phone to a plumber going, I just need you here, can you please get... And they're talking to them like they're a doctor and one of their kids is ill. And then as soon as they finish doing it, they don't want to shake their hand. And I just find that amazing.
It's so true.
And it's like a little social experiment, when you look at that stuff. So, and even, my brother pointed out that, the truth is when those lawyers and barristers out there, and I think we've even put this in Kenny's will or something, that, when the natural disaster hits an area, if you're a lawyer or an accountant or a politician, politicians, a few people will be different because they can make changes and make decisions that get, military in there. But the truth is, of all the skill sets sitting around that area at that time, the actual truth is a plumber is going to be one of the most important people in there because one of the first things that everyone is going to need. And they need fresh drinking water is one of the first things that everyone is going to need. And, it's just one of those things. And as soon as that job's done again, they'll be desperate to get them in there. And then once they're done, everyone starts cracking jokes at them. That kind of stuff we found interesting. So I think that's the stuff that a lot of plumbers, a lot of tradies connected with, and because we know it to be true.
100%. And that's what I was alluding to before. I mean, as you watch that film, you think to yourself, wow, like this is how it works. This is exactly right. And, as a plumber and a tradesman, I mean, I don't think there would be too many of us who haven't at some point, turned up inappropriately dressed to a friend's birthday or a party or family function or whatever because we're being caught out, on the tools, sorting something out as you, I think that scene with your brother's birthday in the film alluded to. And it probably one of the reasons why the film was so well, accepted and appreciated by those within the trade.
Yeah, and we hear that a lot with guys going, and so many people, keep saying, so are you a plumber? It's like, no, I'm not. Heaps of mates are, but no, I'm not. But again, because I'd also spent so long with the splashdown, I love the old expression of and seen the way they treated working on honest days. And the thing we found fascinating, see, my uncles were hard-working, working-class people that did, and there's an expression I keep saying, I love the old expression of an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. That used to really mean something. Like that, because, this country went through a recession where everyone would take any job they could. And what I loved about that expression, which doesn't exist now, is it doesn't matter what job someone is doing, that if they worked hard for a day and got paid for it and brought that money home to their family, there was that beautiful expression that just is around, he was an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And I just thought that was beautiful. And that was for every tradesperson. It didn't matter what you did. That, you could say, I'm a plumber, anything. I clean chimneys. It doesn't matter what it is. I spent all day down a sewer pit trying to clear it because, 10 houses were about to back up. And then people would go, well, there's an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And that was just a way of going, well, you really worked hard today for your money, I thought they were the halcyon days of people being able to be proud of how hard they worked. And I'm not saying people aren't proud of working hard now, but I think society had great expressions that kind of backed it up as well. But that's, of course, because times were tougher. People came out of a recession where you were lucky to have a job. I think it's nice to think we're in sort of a bit of a position. I think that people can then take it for granted that people have work. But as we know, it's still tough for some people having to get work. But, to which I would say to them, go and learn a trade.
You mentioned pay and money. Have you ever had to do anything just for the money? And the reason I ask in terms of a job is because I've found that people who are successful over the long haul tend to have, I guess you'd call it, mental stamina to back themselves, even when there may be a better option financially on the table, knowing that their career will work out okay in the long run. And I just wondered whether there was ever a time when you had to choose a job over money.
Yeah, it's I've had to make decisions between TV shows. There was a show I was going to do for the ABC, and there was a show on offer from one of the major networks. And undoubtedly, had I gone with the show that was with one of the major networks, was pretty much double the money, and literally like double the pay. But the other show, there was another show with ABC that I really liked the script, and I thought it was great material. And it wasn't to say that the one on the major network wasn't a good project, but I just felt the other one was a better project for me, and it was more dramatic, and I thought that would do well for me to do a little bit more sort of drama. And so, yeah, I went with the half-paying job, and I'm still glad I did. It was an enjoyed show on the ABC, and so I kind of go, well, that worked well. And so sometimes, and that would be no different than some builders. And I've got mates who are builders that often tell me over his jobs that there's one that'll pay more, but there's another one where the house design is a little bit different. They'd really like to have a crack at it. And I kind of go, well, there's the same thing. They could pick a job. One of my very best mates is, he's a master builder, and he's got a couple of jobs that he wants to do because he said, I'd love to have a photo of that in a book and go, I built that house. He goes, I've got another one that would be easier for me. I could just sort of stroll through it. But so I think other people make the same decisions. There's some jobs you'll take it for the challenge, without a doubt. I think a lot of people out there would probably sell themselves short of the fact they do stuff that's similar. But I know what you mean. Sometimes it's hard to say no to the money. But I do think, there'll be other people out there too that might be offered a job being poached from it. And just people working non-entertainment jobs. There's a few people, I've spoken to some people even recently, just this week actually, they got offered more money to leave a family-run business by a big corporation, and they said, I realised how much I love working for this family. And when I realised I was going to be working for a corporation, they said the money wasn't going to be worth it. And I went, well, there you go. That's a great call, because you can't buy a smile. You actually can't purchase happiness. You've got to feel happy. And if you're in a job that you don't like, getting paid more to do it, or working for people you don't like, the money actually won't put a smile on your face. It'll buy you stuff, but it won't buy you a smile.
How do you evaluate a project now? Because you've got your acting and career, but you also do a ton of charity work and a lot of other things going on, not to mention family and all the things that go with that. Is there an overall mission that you're trying to achieve? And does all of it fall under the one umbrella?
No, they're all individual. They really are. It's in all honesty, to compare it to normal life, it is like saying, if you're going to find a new friend, what would you be looking for? You only have a certain set of loose rules, but you don't know what colour hair they're going to have. You don't know what the height they're going to be. You don't know what nationality they're going to be. You don't know if it's going to be a male or a female. It's going to be a new great friend of yours. But when they turn up, you start to assess them on things. You know what I mean? Is this reliable? Is this a good person? Do I trust this person? Does it seem like it's going to have longevity? So it's like that with the script. You don't know when it turns up. They're all so different. Some are similar, but some are different. So at first you've got to see, who the producers and directors are, the people behind it. Is it a good script? Some of them, the script is mastered. There has to be a good script. There has to be a great idea on the page. And even before, I guess, you find out who it is involved in it, but you will know who's involved in it, as in who's producing it, because it comes to you from the writer or the producer. And then you've got to, there's a few other questions, and there is a few questions to ask. Like, if someone has this idea of this amazing film that's going to be like Star Wars, but they've only got $500,000 to make it, it's probably not going to look great. So you've got to consider the people. Are they being realistic about what size budget there is for this film? And then you've got other scripts where the story's fantastic. There is no effects in it. It's just about relationships and people, and it won't need the money to make it. It's got a little bit of money to be fine. So there's that, but then there's also what actors are in it. There's that question as well. And then sometimes you may not know the actors, but the script's great, and you meet the people, and they've got great skill. They may not be a known actor, but it might be worth working with them, their chance to shine. Everyone needs their first day, So there's no silver bullet. There's no one magic template that you lay over the top of it, So it's very different. You can't actually just whack a multimeter on it and go, yeah, there's 12 volts right there, or there's 240, There's a number of things you've got to look at. And I guess it just takes time to figure out what your questions are for you, and for me, they would be some of them, But the old expression is the script is master. If you've got a bad script, you've probably got a bad film. So the script has to you've got to want to turn the page. It's like a good book, And people know the difference between a good and a bad book. I mean, you can have some stories that aren't as complex and put some big special effects around it, and that some blockbusters are like that, and they serve a purpose too, without a doubt. Being able to walk into a cinema and just sit down and escape the world and enjoy great vision and special effects. There's fun in that too,
Just a couple more questions, because I know that you're an extremely busy guy. Best movie or project that you've ever worked on?
I've always got to say Kenny, because we worked on it with family and friends. Like there's ones that have been more impressive in budget. I worked on Bourne Legacy, which had a bigger budget, and doing Charlie and Boots with Paul Hogan was, mind-blowing working with Paul Hogan. But we can never forget that it all started with Kenny when no one in Australia really knew who I was. And the film, me and my brother made this film with family and friends that all worked incredibly hard on it, hoping people would enjoy it, and they did. And so that'll always have to be number one.
Do you have any advice for someone who's just beginning their life or career, if you like, as a tradesman?
Well, the advice I offer anyone on anything is there's no skill really that's going to be wasted. There really isn't. And the other thing is that if I was going to tell anyone, and I tell this to actors and anyone that wants to get involved in sport or whatever, information is all around you in the minds of people that work beside you. So anyone that's working the job longer than you, even someone that may have worked in the job only the same time as you, might have a different set of skills than you. And you don't have to even go to trade school to learn stuff. You do have to go to the apprenticeship. But my point is, people, for the most part, back some time ago, people used to literally learn things by asking people, hey, mate, can you show me how to do that? And I just think the younger people now know that they actually have complete freedom. If they see someone, even in a trade they're not interested in, if they're walking past a guy that's building a fence or whatever, saying, oh, how do you do that? If you keep asking those questions, the information is actually all around us. There is the internet, which, our parents never had the joy of it. But as far as just gathering skills, I think it all pays off. And I learned on a film set, and when I was a young guy in theatres, I asked everyone a million questions, and that's how I learned to be a lighting guy when there was no certificate to be an entertainment lighting guy. Fireworks, driving trucks, forklifts, rigging, I'm not qualified to do it all, and so therefore being away. But I used to design stuff and then have it checked, for entertainment. Back when you do, the world's changed a little bit now, but even my ability to be able to, kind of do stuff around my property was just by asking people questions. And that's all I say to young people now is that you could literally learn, when we were kids, for every kid that was in the back garden smashing around with an old engine trying to, do up a car, they weren't going to a trade school. They were just asking people questions. And I still think that's a free world of information. And yeah, sure, every now and then you might crack a bloke that says, not now, mate, I'm busy, and that's fine. If they are busy, that's fair enough. They've got to get the job done. But, just not to be afraid to ask more questions. And I know that's been said a million times, but even about stuff that may not be, exactly in line with what you're doing, but I think it'll help your job in time. And I just don't think there's no such thing as wasted knowledge, I don't think. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Remain inquisitive.
And do something with it. Ask the questions, And I, like I say, engines are my greatest example, because kids, we used to just stand beside someone and say, hey, how do you do that? What's that? How does carburetor work? And I tell you. So, don't be afraid to do that more.
One last one for me personally. I'm pretty new to this, and in your book you talk about the need to be open to criticism for the benefit of improvement. So I thought I should ask how I did. I know that you do a number of interviews, and some probably good and some probably bad. So I thought I'd ask you how you thought it went.
No, it's great, mate. Great. Had a chat. And, no, God, mate. You know, if anyone reckons there's a magic formula to it, it's being able to, you know, get on the phone, be casual, have a chat, and have a list of questions and be able to word them well. Mate, bang on. Perfect.
Cheers, Shane. Thanks for doing this once again, and thanks for the feedback. You know, you do a lot of work both on and off the camera, and you clearly touch many people along the way. So just wanted to thank you for all that you do. And from the trade community in general, I don't think there's too many of us, particularly plumbers, that don't still whip that Kenny DVD out every 12 or 18 months and still get a laugh over all the great and accurate jokes that you gave us through that film. So cheers, mate. It's been awesome, and thanks again.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure indeed.
Hey everybody, it's Matt again. Thanks for listening. Just a couple of things before you guys clock off. You can get all Trench Talk episodes at xrm.com.au/podcast. You can also sign up for other goodies at the same site. Just plonk your email in there and you are covered. That's X for X-ray, R for Romeo, M for Mike.com.au/podcast. If you really like what I'm bringing you, please head to iTunes, subscribe to this show and leave a review right there. And lastly, if you want to contact me directly, type the @ symbol followed by Mr. Matt Reynolds into your search bar and you'll find all the social links. Goodbye.